The Belt Forum, MBF, has reiterated its call for the restructuring of Nigeria, highlighting the marginalization of minority groups under the current system. MBF's national president, Dr. Bitrus Pogu, represented by Emmanuel Alamu, made a statement at a two-day symposium on restructuring held in Kaduna State. The event, organized by the Rebirth Group, brought together various ethnic groups, including Ohanaeze Ndigbo and Afenifere. Pogu emphasized the historical exclusion of the Middle Belt from key decision-making, stressing the need for restructuring to address marginalization and inequality. Participants at the symposium agreed that Nigeria's current structure is failing, recommending the reorganization of the country into regions with more autonomy and a parliamentary system of government. The symposium also featured contribution from diaspora participants and experts on federalism and economic restructuring. And to wrap that conversation, we're joined by public affairs analyst in person of Martins Lumba. Good evening, glad to have you join me on the news.
Good evening.
All right, what are your thoughts? I beg your pardon?
I said it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the Middle Belt Forum calling for restructuring to prevent minority groups from being marginalized?
The way I see it, if we want to move forward as a country, we need to address all the inequalities that are very, very obvious for even the blind to see. Clearly, the Middle Belt Forum has every right to advocate for restructuring like every other part of Nigeria has at one point or the other advocated. It has become more urgent now. It's the realities that we're seeing with the kind of skewed appointments that happened in the last government of President Buhari, and now the kind of skewed appointments that we're seeing under Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. If we want to be honest with ourselves and if we want this country to make progress, we have to run the country as an all-inclusive entity. Clearly, many people are operating from the fringes, you know, and that will not augur well for the betterment of the future of Nigeria. So to that extent, I believe that the Middle Belt Forum is on course.
When you say that we need to include everyone to run, Nigeria as an entity, what do you really mean by that? When you say all-inclusive?
The way it is, with the present structure of Nigeria, it will be very difficult for an Ishekiri man to become president of Nigeria. If a big ethnic group as the Igbo nation cannot give us a president, with all the effort that they put in the last presidential election, we all saw what happened. So you can imagine a thief man or whoever. The last person that went there from the Middle Belt was General Yakubu Gowon.
Apologies, Mr. Lumba. Sincere apologies, Mr. Lumba. Sincere apologies. Kindly hold your thoughts. I understand we have to take a short break now. We'll get back to you very shortly. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have our guests to speak with us, and that's Martins Lumba, public affairs analyst on the system of government in Nigeria and the call by the Northern Leaders Forum. You are sharing your perspective on how we can ensure an inclusive government in Nigeria. Please proceed.
Yeah, what I was saying was that the last person from the Middle Belt bloc to rule Nigeria was General Yakubu Gowon. And the dynamics of power as at the time he became head of state compared to now, I can assure you, and everybody can attest to the fact that Nigeria has completely, what is the word now? Completely, deviated from the cause of the founding fathers. It will be very difficult for a minority to rule Nigeria now unless we address all of the issues that have to do with inequality, that have to do with marginalization, that have to do with, what is the word now, quota system and all whatnot. I think we all have to compete on basic rules that everyone can agree to. That is the only way forward that will guarantee peace, that will guarantee unity, and that will also guarantee progress.
I mean, having said that, we have seen different calls for Nigeria's system of governance to be, changed to a parliamentary system. Do you feel really there's a need for Nigeria's system of government to be changed to a parliamentary system of government?
With the way we have been running government in Nigeria, military, parliamentary, presidential, the reality is that it is not really about the system that we run. It is about the caliber of individuals that take leadership position in Nigeria. I can bet you that if we have leadership rights, by whatever configuration we run Nigeria, everybody will feel the impact of government and governance. With the way it is now, we have completely lost it, and we really need to confront the issues as they are. We don't need to beat around the bush. Clearly, we have derailed, and we need to run a very transparent government, an all-inclusive government, a sincere government, a government that carries the people along, not a government that will just do things. You wake up one morning, you hear that there has been a road, you never heard about bidding, you never heard about. The rules are very clear, even for bidding process in Nigeria. We already had, I don't know if it's still existing, the due process office, and for some reasons, from Muhammadu Buhari's time to now, we haven't really heard anything from there. And if we continue like this, clearly there will be an implosion. So it is not really about the system, it's about the caliber of people that, take authority, that govern. What we have now are just a bunch of very unserious people, sorry to say.
When you say it's the caliber of people we have at the corridors of power, how then can we ensure we have, so to speak, round pegs in round holes in government?
Okay, the reality that we now face is that we have moved from impunity to what I can call insanity. The crave for power without following the rules, without abiding by the rule of law. You say these are the rules by which we're going to conduct an election, and for some reason, just flagrantly like that, you disparage, you just throw all of those rules aside. That is a big problem. And I can assure you that if we continue like this, we're really, really going to have it tough going forward. So for me, I think that with all the technology that we have brought to bear, look at the last election in Edo, look at the election in Ondo, look at the election in Imo, the previous one and the last one. And you begin to ask yourself, what for goodness sake is going on? You have beavers, you have your, what is it called now? You say you have to transmit results to a place, and for some reason, we have all seen elections that have taken place elsewhere, whether it's India, whether it's South Africa, whether it's the United States of America. Clearly, we have to adopt something else that is bigger than the transparency, and I think I call it the issue of consequence. If there is no consequence for all of the rubbish that we keep on witnessing every day, we can never get out of this quagmire. So I think that there has to be consequence. And people must know that 30 years down the line, we're going to revisit all of the nonsense that took place in 2023. If they are conscious of that fact and that reality, I assure you there will be a rethink. There will be, for instance, what I mean basically is that most of the people that restrain themselves in religion to say they are not going to commit sin, it is because they know that there's a consequence. They have been threatened, or if you like, assured that there's a place called hellfire. And those who embrace faith, they embrace faith because there is a promise, there is a consequence that there is heaven. So if in our own system, we make it known to all of the politicians that you can do whatever you want to do, but 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we're going to revisit all of these issues because the facts are clear to everybody. They will have a rethink, and I'm sure they will behave more appropriately because cameras don't scare them, police people don't scare them. In fact, police actually abet some of the crimes that we're complaining about. So the best thing is for us to hold on to consequences that are very dire.
And that's a fine place to wrap up. Yes. Many thanks indeed. We have to leave it there. Public affairs analyst Martins Lomba, many thanks indeed for your expertise.